This is a tough video for me to make because it hits close to home. My mom immigrated here legally when she was pregnant with me, so I got here by the skin of my teeth. My family lost everything in Cuba, including their rights. So no, I don't take my American freedoms for granted. Some of you know me from my last YouTube channel, New York Nadia. The channel blew up because I wasn't afraid to speak truth to power. That's a right that we Americans are privileged to have, and that so many around the world don't. Charlie Kirk was killed last week while doing what he did best, peacefully sharing his viewpoints on a college campus, sparking open debate, and encouraging students to think critically about subjects that affect all Americans. I didn't agree with everything he said, but whether you agreed with him or not, the fact that an American died for having an opinion should horrify us all. We can argue for days about who was responsible, but in my opinion, the bigger threat is the response, because I've seen too many videos of young people celebrating this tragedy. This isn't normal. While the First Amendment doesn't protect us from each other, rights come with obligations. You can't have one without the other. To ensure your right to free speech, you're obliged to protect the rights of others to do the same. That's just how it works. But make no mistake, our right to free speech is an obstacle to anyone who seeks power over us. It seems to me that this right is being eroded, not by force, but by coercion, by convincing us that we no longer need or want it, by convincing us that shutting those who oppose us down is worth sacrificing our own freedoms. Do you see it yet? So how did we get here? How did we reach a place where disagreement doesn't spark debate, but violence? It's not normal for speech to feel like a threat. It's not an organic reaction to words. It's programming. As an American, I stand by the First Amendment, not just for me, but for everyone. Because without free speech, nothing else in our system works and nothing else matters. But this video isn't about politics. It's about psychology and the mindset that leads ordinary people to lose themselves in groupthink, in mob mentalities, and sometimes, tragically, in violence. I'm going to share what science tells us about this behavior, how it starts, and how to free ourselves from manipulation and programming. Let's get into it. The first thing you need to understand is that humans are tribal. We all want and need to belong to a group that validates and appreciates us. It helps us feel grounded in the world around us, like we matter. This feeling is especially intoxicating to people who lack a strong internal identity, and they're easily caught up in groupthink. Social identity theory shows us that once we found acceptance into a group, we instinctively divide into them and us. Once that happens, we start protecting our side at all cost, even if it means vilifying the other without a cause. Then comes group polarization. When people surround themselves with only like-minded voices, their opinions shift toward the extreme. Moderates become radicals simply by staying in an echo chamber. The brain reinforces this. When we feel our group is threatened, the amygdala lights up. Fear, anger, flight mode, and the prefrontal cortex shuts down. Because when fear takes over, reason is the first thing to go. In crowds, people often lose their sense of self. Psychologists call this de-individuation. You feel less responsible, more anonymous, and more willing to act in ways that you would never do alone. Add in emotional triggers like anger, disgust, outrage, and suddenly violence feels not only justified, but righteous. That's why moral panics spread so fast. Once you believe the other side is dangerous, your brain stops questioning if there's any real threat and goes into defense mode. But this doesn't happen organically. It's done through programming, and it's done over time, like a slow drip. First, you're isolated from opposing views. You're exposed to the same talking points repeated over and over again in the media, music, and on social media. You gain social rewards for agreeing, likes, shares, and status in your group. You're exposed to and repeat fear narratives, like the other side is coming for us. Little by little, critical thinking erodes, and programming takes over. This doesn't mean you're stupid, because it's not intelligence that determines vulnerability. We're all vulnerable. How easily you're manipulated depends on your ability to become and remain aware that it's happening. But conditioning can be stopped if you're willing to be honest and question the narrative, the beliefs that are being curated and fed to you. Number 1, awareness. Notice when you start to feel triggered and ask yourself, why do I feel so threatened by an opinion? If you get angry or frustrated just because someone doesn't agree with you, that's a sure sign that you're being manipulated. Number 2, diverse exposure. Intentionally listen to people you disagree with, not to argue, but to understand how they got to their conclusions and what perspectives shape their opinions. Critical thinking. Logical fallacies are commonly used when someone is trying to manipulate you and the conversation. Here are a few of the most common ones to look out for. Ad hominem. Attacking the person making the argument rather than the argument itself. For example, personal insults are a sure sign that the person making them doesn't have the information they need to debate. They can't argue the topic, so instead, they attack you. If you're insulted, bow out of the conversation. That other person doesn't have the information or the intelligence to debate the topic, so don't waste your time. Straw man fallacy. This is misrepresenting an opponent's argument to make it easier to attack. This is when someone distorts or exaggerates the argument being made and puts words in your mouth because it's easier to discount that than your original concern. For example, if you say, I think we need more security cameras, a straw man argument would respond, oh, so you're saying that people in this building can't be trusted? You see, your concern is about security, but it's being twisted to sound like you're making a judgment about people. False dilemma, false dichotomy. Presenting only 2 options as if they are the only possibilities when more options exist. For example, you're either with us or against us. The truth is that you can agree with some things without agreeing to everything. Appeal to ignorance. Arguing that something is true because it hasn't been proven false, or vice versa. This is like saying unicorns must exist because no one's proven that they don't. Appeal to authority. Believing anything that an authority says instead of relying on facts. If you lived through 2020, you already know what this sounds and looks like. Slippery slope fallacy. Arguing that one small action will inevitably lead to a series of increasingly disastrous events, although there's either weak or no evidence that they're even linked, and it always ends with some catastrophic conclusion. For example, if you don't use this toothpaste, you'll lose all your teeth and your wife will leave you. Connect to your humanity. Keep in mind that you're not perfect and they're not either, and everyone changes with time. New experiences and maturity helps us grow. So the version of you that's debating today probably won't be the same person 5 to 10 years from now. And the same goes for them. We're all just human. Remember, they're someone's child, parent, and friend. Just as you have loved ones, someone loves them. Respect that, just as you respect those you love. Pause before reacting. I cannot stress this enough. The difference between violence and dialogue is the space you give yourself before you respond. Take a beat before responding. Realize that you don't have to defend yourself. It's not that serious. You can just as easily say, I hadn't thought of that, and walk away. Because odds are you're not going to change their mind, so why waste your time? If you can add a valid point to the argument, then do it. But if you feel yourself becoming emotional, odds are that your point isn't based on facts, but on feelings. Again, ask yourself why you're having such a strong emotional reaction, and you'll discover who's pulling your strings. You lose nothing by listening, even if you disagree with the other person's opinion, because you can still learn something useful from the exchange, a different perspective, more insight, or even something about yourself. Lastly, keep in mind that you don't have to react to everything. Your life isn't in danger just because someone disagrees with you. There's no need to defend yourself, and if you feel that there is, then ask yourself why. This is how you break free from manipulation. Like I said before, rights come with obligations. You can't have one without the other. Civil society doesn't survive on laws alone. Free speech survives on norms, respect, dialogue, and listening, especially when it's uncomfortable. Every time we shut down a voice with violence, we chip away at our own freedom. And every time we choose curiosity over rage, we rebuild trust, not just in institutions, but in each other. Whenever anyone makes a claim, always ask for evidence and challenge your own biases by asking yourself what proof you have to back up your own beliefs. Question everything, including yourself. Pause before reacting. and start to notice the manipulation tactics that are being used against you. We can't undo what happened, but we can decide who we become from here. Don't give in to fear. It blinds you. Don't vilify your fellow citizens. We have more in common with each other than with those trying to pull our strings. Protect free speech, even when it makes you uncomfortable, especially then, because history has already taught us that the alternative, a country where people die for their opinions, is one that none of us can afford to live in. See you in the next vid.